Hello and welcome back to the Mercedes-Benz Virtual GP 2019 season. We're in France at Paul Ricard for the first race in the Mercedes-Benz 190E. My name is Justin Sutton, and joining me as usual, it's Chris Buxton.
Looking forward to this one, the opening round of the 190E EVO II DTM car from the early 90s. This one's a screamer. V4, 2.5 litres and over 300 brake horsepower. Amazing considering the car's age. Let's have a look at the current standings for the VGP1s. Michael Schmidl has had his lead dented somewhat after a less than successful run at Macau last time, but he still leads Stefenko at the top of the table. Then Polesny, Blazek, Sikora and Hlebet round out the top half of the VGP1s. The VGP2s stand as such, Kovacic having a fairly comfortable lead comparatively so over Kujela, but nothing insurmountable by any stretch. Korony Prohaska joined on 41, very closely chased by Rigel in the top half of the VGP2s. But as for the teams, Acer still lead the way, 20 points clear of both Logitech and Benzina on 72, very closely followed by the RPS Replay Studio team and Predator rounding out the top half of the team standings.
Let's take a look at this beautiful car, and I do love this car. It's from 1990. It's a classic DTM racing car from Mercedes-Benz. As mentioned before, over 350 horsepower, well over 350 horsepower, but the thing weighs practically nothing. Not a lot going on in this car as far as safety features and that sort of thing, but thankfully this is a virtual world for them, so nobody's going to get hurt or anything like that. But yeah, the 1992 DTM overall winner, 12 events, 24 races, 9 pole positions, and 16 wins, so a highly successful vehicle this was, and in my opinion, truly beautiful. I really like the way this looks. Here's a stats comparison of Michael Blazek comparing 2018 to 2019. And you can see not going quite as well as he would like this year compared to the previous season, but still going very well, especially considering seasons prior to 2018 as well too. He really got better and better as the seasons went on. He's slipped down just a little bit this season, but I mean, really, it's tougher than it's ever been. Taking a look at Wojtek Polesny, however, in 2018 compared to 2019, he's had 4 podiums compared to just 2 at this point in the season last year. Same amount of top 5 finishes, and a little bit better as far as percentage of possible points. So it is going mildly better for Wojtek Polesny, but I would say pretty much on song for what we would expect from him.
A quick overview of where we are. It is the WTCC layout for Paul Ricard that we're using, so not the full one, otherwise these engines would absolutely explode. Fairly warm trackside, 29 degrees, so it should be nice and comfortable for our drivers. Martin Stefenko, driver of the day for VGP1 in the Benzina team, and it was Simon Kovacic for VGP2 for their performances at Macau.
Yeah, looking at the qualifying results, it is Michael Schmidl who is on pole position. How it is much less of a gap than we saw in Macau. It was almost half a second in Macau, only 0.114 of a second this time, but it's actually Polesny that's right behind him. It's not the standard Stefenko that we usually see. Looking a little bit further down the grid, we can see the top 18 cars all within 2 seconds of one another, so very, very tight between everybody, and everybody is within 3 seconds, all 22 cars. And of course, it is going to be another full grid of 22 cars as we're racing online for this race compared to the last 2 races at Macau, where we had the guys in the studio as the lights are coming on now. And those 4-cylinder engines are revving it up. They're not sounding quite as mean and thunderous as that GT3 car, but I think we're going to be in for a real show as we prepare to go racing here at Paul Ricard. And again, it is Schmidl on pole, Polesny right beside him, and Hlebet's in 3rd position in the Smarty car. And it looks like actually, Polesny's not really going to be challenging Schmidl for the lead, but will we see Hlebets actually go around the outside into the first corner? Multiple three-way battles. I think oh, yep, and that's a Benzina car that's spinning off. I'm not sure which one it is. I don't think it's Stefanko. No, I don't believe that was Stefanko. Yeah, and that's the Forza car spinning off as well, too. Pachata just about narrowly avoiding that one. Oh, yeah, and there goes another one. So in typical DTM kind of touring car fashion, this is exactly the kind of start we would expect. And wow, a full course yellow, Chris.
Within 2 corners, we had a full course yellow. My goodness me, that was chaotic, I think is fair to say. But, yeah... Everyone running the hard
tires. Oh, it was Stefanko.
Yeah, Stefanko's had an absolute disastrous start. Now, something I'm going to point out, the qualifying format has changed for this phase of the season. Instead of just the standard 20-minute session they would get previously, it's now a 15-minute session that leads to the top 6 having a super pole lap, as they call it. Now, it went very wrong for Stefanko in that section, hence how he ended up being essentially slower than the person that started 7th. He actually had a bigger delta to Schmidl than 7th place did. So that's how that occurred. It's because it happened in 2 different sessions. But yes, Stefanko, it would seem, I mean, okay, he's essentially been punched in the face and flown off the track, so you can't say he's having a complete disaster yet. But judging by the qualifying, exactly as you pointed out, Justin, we're used to seeing the 2 MSs on the top spots. Obviously, the reverse grid of Macau, of course, shuffled the field. That's the point. But yeah, that's with Stefanko starting 6th and then being shunted all the way down the field. I mean, he's right the way down to penultimate position. Several people coming into the pits, not surprised. But that is the procedure that we have in place here at VGP. If there is a full course yellow and cars need to pit, then the full course yellow will remain until those cars return to the ground. Looks like Schmidl is literally out there on his own, as he's already got himself a gap to Polesny in the beautiful bright green Acer car. There is Riegel in the other Acer car. There's Thomas Prohaska in the sport car. I think he had a bit of a troublesome time. Now, another thing I want to point out, these cars are not easy to drive. As Justin pointed out, they're very light, and they have, for the type of car they have quite a lot of horsepower, all trying to go through the back tyres, and with the exception of Lishka, all of them are on hard tyres. How much more difficult do you people want to make this for yourself? My goodness me, and we've seen the chaos that can go on, and some of the spins that happened were from really minor contacts, so a lot of adjustment from our drivers to get used to these cars. Now, last season we had the Mercedes-Benz C9, which totally different beast again, but that one could kind of, you could tap it a little bit as long as you didn't have your foot planted, because that was a lot of horses. Considering it was about 600 horsepower that wanted to escape via the rear wheels. But these things, also bearing in mind that the actual wheels themselves are like milk bottle tops. They're really, really small. So they've got to be very careful with these things.
Yeah. I mean, they will take a bit of a battering, just because of the nature of the type of car that they are. Again, they were built to kind of go into racing series that have that kind of contact that involved in them. But yeah, they're very, very light, as you said. And yeah, it can be very, very difficult, and they're not exactly the most aerodynamic, as I'm sure the viewers can see just by using their eyeballs to look at the shape of the car. It's not the most aerodynamic car on the face of the planet, and it looks like we're going to be doing one more lap under the full course yellows. As Schmidl sets the fastest lap, no surprise there, under full course yellows. But yeah, I think it was, because indeed it was both Benzina cars that were caught up in that opening lap incident. So I think the first one that I initially saw was Lishka, and then eventually Stefanko as well too, getting involved in that, as we saw one of the Benzina cars catching up to the back of the field. I think that was Lishka catching up to the back of Kujela. But Stefanko really has it all to do now. It's going to be so difficult for him from 20th position. He is 19 positions behind his rival in this championship, and there is Lishka. And yeah, it was indeed him that came flying up to the back of Kujela, and I think I saw a little bit of a lockup, maybe. as they were coming into that first corner. But I think we're going to be... No, maybe not on this attempt. We've got Vanashek in the background there. That's the Legion car of Vanashek just coming through that high-speed chicane and starting to catch up. But we still have Kostulik in the Forza car that still needs to catch up to the back of these guys as well. So we might have one more lap still to go under the full course yellow. But yeah, Michael Schmidl in the Predator car leading the way. Hasn't had to defend his position. He got an absolutely amazing start. Polesny did come under a little bit of threat from Klebets, but really before these guys could get the gloves off and start duking it out with one another, boom, we got that full course yellow. So unfortunately, I think we lost out on some good racing, some really nice side-by-side racing. But, you know, the size of this track, Chris, how wide it is. I mean, they were 3, I think even 4 wide in parts of the grid as they were coming into turn 1.
Yeah, absolutely. Paul Ricard lends itself to having the space to be able to do that, and the straights in this layout are not very long. So
no.
And now the full course yellow coming to an end. Also, these things do not have driver aids. There's no electronic. The length of electronics in these things are spark plugs and lights. That's about it. It is pure mechanical driving and engineering at its purest. Away we go then. The full course yellow has gone. Now Will Smith will be able to stretch his legs. Look at the amount of jostling going on all the way through the field. Here we go again. Braking zone for turn 1. Let's see who is going to trip over anybody this time. Whoa, Smith getting a very big slide on there. And that's the second of the sport cars trying to make his way through. Oh, that's one of the Acer cars round. Rigel. Yep, it is indeed Pavel Rigel that's fallen all the way down the field. Oh, that's the fast car being shoved off the road. Oh my goodness, that's again, but that's the nature of touring car racing. They, as you said earlier, they will take the battery. It's the single-seater cars that won't really like that kind of wheel-to-wheel banging going on. The GT3s are much more kind of accustomed to it, but these things unsettle quite easily because they're so light and they have an amazing power-to-weight ratio, so they do unsettle on bumpy circuits, situations quite easily. And again, look at the Smarty car ahead. That's Klebets. There, you can see he's actually controlling a slide. Oh, that's someone that isn't controlling a slide. That was one of the Forza cars, I think. Oh my goodness, so unlike what we've seen in the GT3 cars, it's not going to be a steady field and people overtaking someone. It's going to be a lot of slide control. This isn't a drift race, gentlemen.
I mean, it's starting to look like it is, but
yeah,
hey, that's all right with me. Oh, and Frabish has also got hooked onto the back, or to the front, excuse me, of Kujella, but thankfully no incidents there. It's Kujella with an almighty dive bomb up the inside. Surely that's going to allow the Avast car back through with the undercut. It does indeed, and here comes oh no, and the Benzina car is off. Thankfully, I don't think that is going to be another full course yellow or anything like that. And I believe that was Lishka that time. Yeah, that was Lishka that time, not Stefanko. So only one Benzina car going up for a spin that time, and there is Stefanko, the closest man in the championship to Michael Schmidl, as we've been saying for multiple seasons, of course, and he is already up into 14th place. He's putting that pressure onto the VGP2 driver of Bushek and that Smarty car as they make their way into this chicane now. It's, I call it a chicane. It feels a lot more like a chicane in an F1 car, but in these cars, it actually genuinely feels like 3 corners, a left and then a right and then a left as we go on board. With Kazanik in the Logitech car, he is applying that pressure to Sikora. He's got Korony just behind him in 7th position. Korony leading the way for VGP2. Here we go with Stefanko once again. He's going to try that move on Bushek. And with the inside line on the rundown into turn 7, I think he's going to get him, and he does indeed. So Stefanko up into P13. So he's already made a number of positions up. But, I mean, is he really going to be able to catch Michael Schmidl? I'm not so sure about that. I think it's really going to be a recovery drive for him today, Chris.
Oh, Frabish, you very nearly took the Avast car there of Rigel with you. The Acer car, sorry. And again, that rather shows just how tricky these things can be. Trying to apply throttle mid-corner can cause these things to snap on you. Now, we commented before that, a number of races we had in the GT3s where the liveries were quite, clean and the spray didn't need to come out, except for last week in Macau. I think quite a lot of body work repairs are going to be needed after this particular race. A lot of liveries have been completely rearranged. That's the look from Prachada in 10th position, looking at his brother in the Thrustmaster pair. The lead Brachada then is looking at a great scrap between Korny and Kovacic, the lead of the VTP2 class, right the way up there in 7th and 8th. Great effort for them. And Kazanik not... That was a hell of a whack there. He caught that sort of tyre bollard thing there, and it just completely spat the car out. That was a... he'd have noticed that one. That would sting a little bit, but that's now put him under pressure from Jaroslav Prohaska in the RPS car. Getting a bit of a slide on, coming through that turn 6, down the hill again into the next long right-hander. And again, this is just all about focus as we're looking at many wide. Once again, that's Stefanko getting right involved in. There's a lot of places he can pick up if he just gets a good run up. There's Korny in the sport car. He's got to keep it under control. As you saw the slide he was getting on his car. He's trying to make the move on the Logitech car of Kovacic. That's for VTP2 lead. That's going to give him the outside then for the next long left-handed. Then it's switched back for the final turn, and he's got that inside line. Can he hold on to the position? Is this race, or certainly this class, really lends itself to kind of the punch and counter-punch kind of mechanics that we've mentioned before. Certainly not something you would get in a race like Macau, but here, because the track is so wide, there's plenty of it. And Stefanko, nice bit of slipstream when he needed it from the RPS car of Prohaska. Can he slow it down before he clunks into the back of the Thrustmasters? The Brachada brothers have swapped round in the Thrustmaster cars, and he does indeed keep that one nice and under control. That is up to 11th for Stefanko. Oh, and there goes Brachada on his brother. And swap round again.
Yeah, really great stuff from the brothers, actually. Really great racing in general we're seeing. Particularly, I have to say, Korny and Kovacic, some really nice battling and really respectful battling as well, giving each other the room. No contact between the two of them. Again, contact is gonna happen in these cars. That's just the nature of the beast. There's just no way to avoid that, but they did a fantastic job to manage to keep away from each other. But having a look at Sikora and Kazanik, this is for 5th position. They've kind of fallen off the back of Blazek, who is really harassing Hlebets for that final podium position. Polesny now with an almost 3-second gap to Schmidl up ahead. Here is Jaroslav and Thomas Prohaska, respectively, with Jaroslav in 12th position, having to worry about that Spurt car behind him in 13th position. This is a nice train of cars, actually, so these guys all seem to be very similarly paced. Stefanko managing to make his way through that group of cars pretty quickly, though. Now up into 10th position between the two Pachadas. He's in a bit of a Pachada sandwich, as we've just got over 29 minutes of racing still to go, plus 1 lap here at Paul Ricard. And I have to say, I'm really enjoying this layout. I think the main straight would have been too long on the full layout. So, oh, look at that. So much later on the brakes for Kovacic as he sends one around the outside in the Logitech car. Oh, is that an RPS car? Spinning there. I think it was an RPS car, you know, and I believe that's going to move Stefanko up another position, as now this is a 3-way battle with the Thrustmaster car getting involved as well too. Sikora is in between the two Thrustmaster cars. He might have been the one that went around. I actually missed exactly who that was, but on board with Pachada in that Thrustmaster car, and that is Stefanko, I believe, just ahead of him, if I'm not mistaken. So he's really making up his positions. Yeah, Stefanko up into 8th position already, so he is definitely making up a lot of positions. However, there's a big gap now between 4th and 5th. Korny now about 7 seconds adrift of the Legion car of Michael Blazek, so it's possible that 5th might be the best that Stefanko is going to do, but still, from 19th he was down to. That would be one hell of a drive if he were to manage that one. And he's applying lots of pressure to Kazanik, who is actually now behind Kovacic, the VGP2 Logitech driver, but he's trying to remedy that right now. And it really seems that Korny here is the cork in the champagne bottle. Look at the line of cars that are running behind Korny. He's doing an incredible job to keep that position, Chris.
I believe that's 14 cars in that queue. That's 5th down to 18th. In that, or certainly 5th to 17th, there's a lot of cars. Oh, and that's one of the Forza cars going very wide. There's a 3 wide at the bottom of the shot. That needs to resolve itself when they get to turn 1. Looking at Pachada again to see what he can do. He's lost a little bit of time against his brother. There's a bit of a gap forming there. Oh, that's one of the aces. That's Pavel Ricard trying to recover up the field. And there is Stefanko again, now up into the top 10, chasing Kazanik. I believe it was Kazanik in the Logitech car that we saw going around pretty much a couple of corners ago. on the last lap. Oh, he tries to dive on the inside of Corny, but he's not going to get the drive. Oh, but Corny's had a really bad drive trying to get the traction he needed through that chicane and through another position is Stefanko, as he's then trying to capitalise on that battle going on between Kazanik and Garni. Oh, he's going to have the outside line for that first right hand though. He's managed to keep the sport car behind him, and that's the RPS car. That's Secret that's going a little bit wide. He's having a look on the inside of the next Logitech car of Kazanik. Can he get it done? Oh, very nicely done from Stefanko, and good amount of room given by Kazanik. Now it's going to put the Benzina car on the outside. Oh wow, Kazanik getting his elbows out, running the Benzina car wide, perfectly fair. There was no impact there. So firm but fair driving from Kazanik. Stefanko is going to have to work a bit harder now to get past these Logitech cars. And as you said earlier, Justin, there's a bit of a gap between Kazanik and Blazek. Blazek's fallen a little bit off the back of Flebitz looking at the timings, but look at this lot. This is a race within a race, essentially. As on board with the second Brachada Thrustmaster car, staring at the back of Secret in the RPS car. And again, it's impossible for us to keep up with. It's a great problem for us commentators to have.
Yeah, this is fantastic. I mean, I'm sorry for laughing, but it's a hilarious amount of action that is going on in this race. Here we go with the RPS car side by side with the Thrustmaster car of Pachada. And actually, I think he's going to do it. Yep, I think Sikora is that Prohaska actually that just went through it? It might have been, as the other Pachada brother actually goes the wrong way around that bundle of tires just to avoid that. He ran a little bit too wide, couldn't get back on the circuit, so just decided to go off the track to avoid that. Thankfully, there is lots of runoff area at Paul Ricard here, so he was able to do that without losing too much time. Certainly not ideal. He would have liked to have been on the track. That would have been a lot quicker. But here is Sikora now onto the back of Pachada. This is for now 9th position. Very, very close between these two. A bit of a gap now actually forming between Corny and Pachada, but still many, many cars. What you can't see is behind Sikora here. There's about 10 cars all within 1 second of one another, so it is very, very tight still, just outside the top 10. Having a look at Pavel Rigel in the Acer car, who would like to have a much better race this time out compared to what he had in Macau. As we turn our focus once again to Sikora, is he going to have a good enough exit out of the final corner to mount an attack into turn 1 as we go on board with Rigel? Yeah. Ooh, yeah, that door closed rather quickly. It was open. I could see why he went for it, but it closed rather quickly, and Kostyuk is actually going to take advantage of that and move himself up ahead of Prohaska as well too. Now as they make their way down towards turn 1, we can see 3 wide. I think that's both Forza cars. It is indeed both Forza cars alongside the Spurt car as well too of Prohaska, but not quite 3 wide. One of those Forza cars is going to drop back behind. Still side by side though. Looks like Kostyuk is going to come out ahead of that one. Kujela is going to be the loser out of those 3 for that particular battle at this particular moment, as we head into the chicane once again. But as you said, Chris, this action just is relentless. It will not stop. These guys keep battling, and that's absolutely fantastic. It's difficult to actually keep up with what's going on, but this is unbelievable side-by-side stuff. We're seeing really, really good, high-quality racing, a bit of contact, which everyone likes to see as well, too, and nobody's retired yet, so it's really the ideal mixture.
Yeah, absolutely. It's giving us some incredible action. With all the side-by-sides going on, lots of people trying lots of different lines. Oh, just a reminder, Smiddle is, of course, the race leader. He should drop back, really, and enjoy some of the incredible racing going on.
He's missing out.
Yeah, too right. He's having a boring race, which the leader tends to want to have, because they don't want to be having to defend and what have you. Polesny holding on to second quite well. There's Slebitz chasing him for that, trying to go up the podium. Blazek about another 2 seconds further down the road. Further down the field is Kujela in the second Forza car. Oh, that's Vanashek in the Legion car. That's towards the tail of the field. There's Yananik in the other Predator car. So almost the entire field bookended by the Predator team. But even at this part of the grid, there's a lot of fighting going on. You can just hear how Vanashek is feathering the throttle. He's very cautious with this car, whereas generally the throttle is much more smoothly applied by those maybe have got a bit more comfortable, a bit more experience with the 190E EVO II. Vanashek sounded very, very cautious, and I don't blame him, because this car will let go quite easily when, if you just wiggle your big toe in slightly the wrong place. And that is Yeleny going a little deep into that first turn, but manages to keep that one under control. Nicely done around the tyre bollards then. Nice drive for Vanacek. And now trying an outside move. That's going to send it way too deep. way too deep. That's all what he went for, but it was on the brakes about a week too late for that one. That's Rigel now up to 13th position after his early race difficulties. So another one on a bit of a recovery drive. Stefanko says rather stalled as I thought it would do for a while, at least behind Kazanik. And whoa, well caught Kostalik in the Forza car behind Rigel. Oh, goodness me, that's very, very close to Jaroslav Prohaska in the RPS car. But yeah, expect plenty more of that. And if we're going to have this for the next few races, I am going to be a happy boy. Not that I'm ever not a happy boy commentating with VGP, of course, but these things are just fabulous to commentate on. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, I've loved all of the Mercedes cars that we've done over the course of the past year and a half or so, but this is definitely shaping up to be one of the best cars, I think, for VGP. This is truly fantastic. We're on board with Kostalik. He has a great view of Rigel, who tries to go around the outside at turn 1. He's so late on the brakes, and I think he's going to keep it out of the barrier. He's got about 50 meters between the edge of the circuit and where the next barrier is, but he is going to, it looks like he's going to lose a position to Kostalik. Is he? No, actually he does manage to stay ahead only just. That was an unconventional racing line, let's put it that way.
He was going for the Formula 1 layout.
That's right, that's right. He thought maybe he'd add a few corners to his lap, but wow, I can't believe he actually didn't lose out more than that. But Rigel is really pushing very hard. He seems to have an aggressive sort of driving style, and I don't necessarily mean as far as like knocking into people, but more. Yep, and there is Kostalik going for a bit of a spin. Again, lots of runoff areas, so I don't think he's going to incur too much damage on that one, but he's going to be really disappointed about that. Kostalik has been, again, I've said it before, I'll say it again, he's been performing really well as of late, and I'm sure he's going to be hugely disappointed about losing out on some positions there as we go on board with Stefanko. Now, I said earlier, Chris, that I think potentially top 5th position is going to be as good as he can hope for. He has already worked himself up into 7th. As we look at Prohaska now, a bit of a switchback maneuver for him, but now he's got the Forza car on the inside through this left-hander, so he might actually lose a position, but now he's got the inside line through this right-hander. He's practically pushing the Acer car through as they come onto the start-finish straight. He does manage to hold on to that position, but very, very close racing between all of these guys, and I'm really enjoying, once again, this car. I am mildly biased because I just really like this car. I like the way it looks, I like the amount of power that it has, I like how little it weighs, I like the way it sounds, everything about it, but it's really proving to be absolutely fantastic. We're only halfway through the first of the races that we're going to be using this car in, and already it is proving to be just an absolute hoot.
So you hate this car then? You hate everything to do with it, quite clearly. Now, I know exactly what you mean. But that's the very nature of the car. It's because it's light but has a good amount of power for the size and the weight of car that it is. It gives us this kind of racing is why, the touring car type of racing is so popular. You do get grids of, a decent size, but they're just so close for the broad part of it. I'm noticing Rigel seems to be taking quite a number of unconventional lines. Of course, we're still looking at Kujela, who is fending off Prohaska as best he can. And there, Prohaska is in the VGP1 category, remember, so that isn't for class position. It's just overall race position. But wow, that is a lot of sliding going on. That's a lot of work Prohaska's having to do for himself there to try and keep his car on the road. And was wondering what was going on with Mr. Stefanko. Here he is, chasing down Kazanik once again. Kazanik seems to be doing a brilliant job of defending, but look at that. Now, it does seem to be taking Stefanko a while to get a slipstream off of Kazanik. I noticed this last time that he was chasing him. Last time we looked at Stefanko, unlike getting up to this point, he seemed to be getting the slipstream and getting on with it really quickly. Kazanik, for some... Whoa, you were so close, Kazanik, to that tyre wall. Goodness me. That's not how you change tyres in these things, my friend. And that's Prohaska round. He's had a problem in the sport car. But what I'm noticing with Stefanko, he seems to be really struggling with Kazanik. Whether he's just burned the best out of his tyres, or whether Kazanik is doing something different, whether it's a setup different, no idea. But he just seems to be unable to follow Kazanik as well as he has the rest. It could also be that Kazanik is been learning off of Blajek, being Well, they're both Logitech. Beg your pardon. I always do that. I keep mixing up Logitech and Legion. They both start with L, and they both have blue and black liveries. But Blazek was always the defensive master of previous seasons. I wonder if Kazanik's been copying him, because Stefanko has really struggled behind him.
Yeah, again, as you alluded to earlier, with this WTCC layout, it isn't the longest of straights, but again, he absolutely scythed his way through the field before getting up to the back of Logitech cars. So yeah, Stefanko seems to be having a bit of an issue getting past that VGP1 driver. Again, actually, Kovacic is ahead of his teammate in the VGP2 car. So Kovacic doing an absolutely fantastic job. You can see him just taking off into the distance there. He's got a little bit of a gap between himself and his teammate. Stefanko's going to try it once again in that Benzina car into turn 1. He's not going to be close enough. He's a couple of car lengths back. And as you mentioned, the setup, as you said, could absolutely be different. And for those that might be wondering, yes, these cars do have setups. You can actually make fine-tuned changes to the suspension and even the aerodynamics as well, too. Oh, yeah, that is definitely not going to help your speed. But again, it's a short run down to this chicane, so really Stefanko not able to capitalize on it. He's right up to the back. Oh, and that's Vanashek, who's unfortunately come to a halt. And it looks like he's had a bit of contact as well with the Predator car of Jelinek. And is he going to be coming into the pits? No, he doesn't need to. He's going to continue on. But I'm assuming that was Vanashek's fault, since he held back and let Jelinek go. So that was sportsmanlike of him. But back on board with Stefanko. And just a couple of corners ago, Chris, he was within he was actually within half a car length of the Logitech car. Oh, that's very deep. That is very, very deep for the Logitech car. But unfortunately, it's just such a long corner. Stefanko not able to capitalize on it. He's going to stay behind for now. But yes, these cars do have aerodynamics. They have the big rear wing, of course, and they have a front splitter as well, too. So it is adjustable, the setup, the aerodynamics of this car, and that could be exactly what Kazanik is using in order to keep ahead of Stefanko. Because if you look through the corners, Stefanko clearly has the edge. Kazanik's sliding all over the place. He's running wide and whatnot. But as soon as they get to this straight, the Logitech is gone. He's not able to Stefanko's not able to pull alongside, and here is perfect evidence of that case that I'm making now. And once again, not able to make anything happen there. So we turn our attention to Rigel once again. And this is what I was trying to say earlier, Chris. He's been really attacking those corners, and you pointed it out yourself too. It feels like he's going in very hot. He's not taking the slow in, fast out sort of approach. No, he's taking the fast in, fast out approach. Hasn't always worked through every corner, but it does work at that particular time. It's going to move him ahead of Yaroslav Prohaska, and he moves himself up into 12th position. So going a little bit better for Rigel now, is he's made up a few positions actually, so it's going better and better. The other Prohaska in the Spurt car is in 16th position, trying to close up on Bushek in the Smarty car. Meanwhile, we haven't actually seen Pachata and Korony recently, but it seems that these guys are really close to one another, and Pachata could be sizing up an overtake here for Korony. Korony, of course, currently running second in the VGP2 category, with Pachata running a little bit further down. He's in 7th for the VGP1 cars. Oh, he's going to try one up the inside. The Thrustmaster car on the Spurt car, but no, again, such long corners as well, too, here, Chris. Turn 7 and turn 10, turn 8, turn 11. You know, some of these corners are they just go on and on and on. And it's making these lines very interesting as Pachata and Korony battle once again, but Pachata gets ahead, actually. Pachata gets ahead of Korony, but will he stay there when they come to the end of this straight, Chris?
That's the thing. They've got to think about when to make their move. Yes, they might well be able to hog the inside of that final apex, but if they're then sitting duck along this straight, which is by standard of the car very long, then that's something they need to think about. Here's Stefanko again, just not able to do anything against Kazanik. Oh, there's Korony in the sport car, Sikora in the RPS car right with him. Pachata's actually in the middle of the two. That's very deep for the sport car. He's fortunate the next apex is to his favour. And turning our attention back to Stefanko, and look at that, just absolutely nothing. He's got no answer to Kazanik, and as you said before, that is almost certainly a setup difference that is between the two that is allowing Kaznik just to maintain that difference, and he's probably going to struggle through that next long right-hander. Oh, 3 wide! Oh my goodness me! How did they not collect one another? Oh, when they were going through that. That's Stefanko. Has he finally found a way past the ever-defending Kaznik in the Logitech car? Oh, he's having to take a bit of an alternate line to do it. He was rather forced out there by Kaznik's line trying to defend it, but Kaznik with a very late defense. Stefanko on the outside of the penultimate turn. Can he get this done? Does he have the inside line for the next corner? Yes, he does, but will the setup then come to Kaznik's favour if he's got a higher top speed? Look how defensive Stefanko is going. He is not allowing that door to be open. But you can just about, and that's with no slipstream at all. And oh, Kaznik was able to maintain that pace with Stefanko almost to the. Oh, I thought that was going to happen. Oh, he was going to clunk into the back of the Benzina car. But Kaznik, if he had slipstream, he would have been back ahead of Stefanko. I'm pretty sure of it. They were matching each other perfectly on pace. So again, Stefanko's got to run. He's got to do it now. Blazic's not going to give him a hand. He's 4 seconds down the road. So, that Stefanko's just got to absolutely run down the road now to try and get away from Kaznik.
Yep. He's going to have to use that extra speed that he seems to have in the corners, and it looks like Kaznik was not able to get by as they made their way down towards turn 6. Corny running right behind Sikora. He's currently in 9th position. He's got Pachata right behind him as well, too. It seems that those two just cannot be separated. A bit of a slide going on for the Spurt car. What's going on with Jan Freibisch? He's dropped down into 17th position, so he's in second to last as far as the VGP1 standings go. It's not been the best of races for Freibisch. We certainly know that he is capable of being further up than that, so he's going to be disappointed, I think, with that result, but he's still maybe got some, at least a position to gain. He's got Thomas Prohaska in the Spurt car just a few seconds up the road, just under 10 minutes still to go in this first race with the Mercedes-Benz 190E, which is proving to be an absolutely wonderful car as we come onto the start-finish straight once again, this three-way battle. The other Pachata brother as well, not that far off into the distance, so certainly if these guys continue their three-way fight, then we could see the other Thrustmaster car getting involved as well. Here we go, down towards the first corner. Will Corney be able to pull alongside? No, didn't quite have the speed to get alongside that RPS car, so he will hold on to that 9th place position for the meantime through this kind of high-speed right-hander as you flirt with that tire bundle at the inside of the corner as much as you dare. And then you've got another one here as well, too. Those are some pretty serious anti-cut measures that they've got at this circuit. You really, really don't want to cut there. But yeah, Corney still in 9th position, not able to find a way past Sikora, and we could be seeing a similar sort of situation as we saw between Stefanko and Kaznik. Stefanko is still in 6th position, holding on to that spot. He's got Kovacic up ahead, which is not technically for position since Kovacic is in VGP 2, but of course Stefanko would like to put a car between himself and Kaznik because of course that is for position, but Corney, he's still got Sikora just ahead. He got very, very close there actually through turn 7. It was looking like possibly setting himself up for a move. A bit later, he's taking a very, very late apex through this left-hander of turn 8, another one of those extremely long corners that just seems to go on and on and on. But not able to make anything happen there. And indeed, he could be coming under attack from Pachata here, who's very close. You can see, I love the way the car dips when these guys get heavy onto the brakes. That's not something that you saw quite so often in the GT3 car, for example. But onto the start-finish straight once again. This three-way battle still developing with the other Thrustmaster car not that far off, and then Rigel as well. You can see just in the distance as well in that lovely Acer livery car. Into turn 1 they go, but again, same situation, Chris. No one's able to actually... Oh, goodness me! I was going to say same situation, but that is... Sikora is gone for a bit of a spin, thanks to a little help from Corney.
I think Sikora was a bit early on the brakes than Corney was expecting, I think it's fair to say. As he absolutely... it looked fair enough. The braking point that the sport car used, well, that's not a surprise. That one coming up. I think that was a little bit unlucky. I don't think it was negligent, really. It looked like Corney hit the right brakes, but I think Sikora was just a little more cautious than Corney was expecting. But Corney being the chasing car, it's on him to not smack into the one he's chasing. So One of those things, racing incident. We'll see if any post-race penalty goes on to that one. Here's Bushek in this mighty car, and there's Kostalik. That's
oh, he's on the softs.
He has. He's been through the pits, so
and fastest lap.
Well, why not? Oh, there it is. So yeah, why not? He's caught the back of Jelinek, and is then trying to wrestle that position away from him, so avoid the wooden spoon. There is the other Benzina car of Lishka that is chasing Hertnecki in the Avas car, and that's for 19th position. Not too far ahead of them is Vanashek. So that three in a little bit of a sort of no man's land. There's 25 seconds near enough between Vanashek and Prohaska down the road. Prohaska's still fighting Frabish in the other Avas car. But, whoa, Lishka is getting lively. He's wanting to get past, but he needs to pick his moments. But, oh, there we go. That's what he's wanted to do. Force Hertnecki offline and get alongside him. Oh, you can see Lishka just caught that apex, and as I was saying earlier, these cars are very easily unsettled. That car did not like riding that bump at all, but he's got a lovely line through that left-hander there, as Lishka has nailed Hertnecki, who's gone that little bit too deep. Nicely done by Lishka. Oh, wow, that was Hertnecki attempting to get back underneath the Benzina car, but couldn't quite get it done. 5.5 minutes to go, so anyone that's got anything left in their car and their tyres. Also, a lot of these guys have been fighting all race long. It's very mentally draining when you're in cars like these. Very similar performance. Setup differences, yes, as we've discussed, but the overall performance is, of course, exactly the same. They're the same car, same engine, etc., etc. So when you've been in a fight for this long, it's very mentally taxing. So when you're getting into the final few minutes of a race, last few laps, one lapse of concentration, we've seen what happened when the concentration is good, let alone when there's fatigue involved. Oh, good catch, Prohaska.
Yeah, impressive stuff. I'm glad he caught that. Oh, wow, but Frabish actually very deep. That's going to allow Prohaska to sneak up the inside. Well done. Moves up ahead, and he's up into 16th position, which is actually 9th in the VGP1 standing, so that was a nice move for position, and I'm sure he's going to be happy about that one. The Avas car looking like he wants to send one up the inside into the final corner, and he does. But as you mentioned before, earlier, Chris, actually, if you try to go up the inside at that final corner, your line through the corner is completely ruined, and then you're just going to lose heaps of time down the straight. As we can see, actually, the Thrustmaster car going up on 2 wheels. He was attacking that right-hander so aggressively as he comes onto the very short version of the Mulsanne straight. Pavel Ricard running right behind him, up into 12th position. And he's got Prohaska not that far behind him in the RPS car. And we can see just how close a lot of these guys still are in the midfield. Towards the back, people have kind of dropped off, what with incidents and issues and stuff like that. And up at the front, we've got people like Schmidl and Polesny just kind of rocketing away. I've been watching the timing, and Hlebets has really been keeping Polesny honest. He's been within about 2 seconds for the entirety of the race, but really it just seems that he has not had quite enough pace to actually mount an attack on the Acer car of Polesny, so it's a bit unfortunate. However, for Hlebets' sake, because obviously I know he had a bit of a rough time in Macau, he's going to be really, really happy about a podium, whether he's battling Polesny for second or not. I'm sure he's going to be absolutely thrilled about being up there in 3rd position. He's got a nice gap down to Blazek. Here we go with Ricard up the inside, getting very, very sideways in that Acer car, and that's going to lose him heaps of momentum as he comes onto that start-finish straight, and I think that's going to actually allow Yaroslav Prohaska to mount an attack. The Acer car defends the inside line on the rundown towards turn 1. The RPS car will have to go around the outside, and it's going to have to be a lot later onto the brakes as well, too. It's a difficult corner to go around the outside of, especially when you consider the next corner is also a right-hander, so he's got to go around the outside of 2 corners. Bit of contact there. Wow, Ricard really far off the circuit. He's gone off the circuit again. That's the line I was mentioning earlier on, Chris, that somebody had to take in the early stages of the race because they were trying to avoid incidents or whatever it was. But yeah, again, Ricard being fairly aggressive with that Acer car and doing his best to try and keep Prohaska behind after making that mistake through the final corner. 2 minutes and 15 seconds plus 1 lap still to go. in this race here at Paul Ricard in France. Stefanko has caught up to the back of Kovacic. Now, again, this is not for position, so there's no points to be gained for Stefanko, but Schmidl now lapping the Legion car. That is Vanashek, I do believe. But also we've got a couple of cars battling. I'm not sure who that was, actually. That's Kostalik, that's right. He's on the soft, so he's making a bit of a charge, makes his way past Hurtnecki. Again, that's not for position. It seems that whatever issue Kostalik had that sent him off the circuit, and we still don't know exactly what caused that, but whatever issue he had, that dropped him right down to the back, and he felt the need to actually go into the softs and just try to pick up some points via fastest lap, which he has done. It looks like he is going to get the fastest lap points, so he should be happy with that one, but I'm sure he will be wondering what could have been. But Kostulik is making his way through the field, and he's got a huge gap to Frabish, though, up ahead, so I don't think he's going to be making up any further positions with just over 1 minute remaining. Again, the Benzina car of Stefanko, right onto the back of Kovacic. Make sure you guys let us know who is your driver of the day. And I'd say Schmidl is definitely a contender. I'd have to say Kovacic as well, Chris. Probably a solid contender for driver of the day. 5th position ahead of no less than 7 VGP1 drivers. An incredible drive from Kovacic.
Yeah, no argument from me at all on that one. Oh, wow, that's Jelenik getting out of the way. So the whole field is now bookended by Predator cars. I love the fact that Rigel had to channel his inner Ken Block. I mean, my goodness, the amount of opposite lock he had to put on through that last turn a lap or so ago was absolutely incredible. As the timer is about to expire, so it will be... I would imagine Schmidl is about halfway through the lap by now. Oh, Stefanko trying to cut back underneath. Was it Blazek that's ahead of him? No, it's Kovacic is ahead of him. Yeah. So he's trying to get past the Logitech car. Oh, he's gonna have to get a bit of slipstream. He's gonna have to try and outbrake him on the inside. And no, again, well defended by Kovacic. Oh, Kovacic's gone too deep. He's finally had to yield, but that took a long time. Stefanko's been on his tail for several laps. So, yeah, I would certainly consider Kovacic for driver of the day for VGP2 with the performance he's put in. And it's not like Stefanko's been, really desperately slower. He's been, oh dear, we've lost Kazanik.
Oh!
Now that's a sudden... What on earth happened to him?
I don't know. That is so unfortunate, though. He was running really well. He was just behind his teammate.
He was. What on earth is happened there? That is a great shame because he was running so strong. I mean, he was Kazanik and Stefanko for a long time.
Not enough fuel, possibly? I mean, is... Oh,
that would be terribly embarrassing if that's the case. But it does happen. Yep. It does happen. That's the thing.
It happened to Polesny, actually.
It did. But he managed to get over the line just.
He did. He did. He had the momentum.
That was a Monza. Yeah, that was a Monza if I remember rightly. But this man just has to cross the line one more time to take another win. And he has to restart his winning streak. But I'm sure he will be very, very keen to get the point scoring run back underway again, especially with his main championship rival Stefanko. Actually, it looks like he's just been demoted to 6th, actually, looking at the numbers, as Kovacic has actually gone back past him.
Blazek, the same thing happened to Blazek, though, and then he moved back up into 4th. So I think, and yeah, again, this is an online race. Obviously, the Macau races were in the studio, so no lag or disappearing or anything like that. So I'm going to go ahead and assume, and there we go, Stefanko moves back up into 5th position. Yep, I was worried for him for a moment. I was worried for Blazek when that happened as well, too. I thought
that caught me out slightly. That's why I was a little bit confused when we were looking at Stefanko staring at the back of what was Kovacic, but Schmidl, once again, a League of One, has been unchallenged all race long, even with the full course yellow going in there part of the way through the first lap. Well, what can you say? Yet again, the champion is proving his worth.
Yeah, just a really impressive drive. I mean, we barely saw him, to be honest. So how do we know it was a really impressive drive? Because we barely saw him on screen. But he is going to swerve his way across the line, let that rear end hang out a little bit, And I imagine he's doing a little bit of that motion in his house right there. Oh, very, very close between Polesny and Chlebets. Chlebets, again, he wasn't really mounting an attack through the entire race. Right at the end, though, he seems to want to mount an attack on Polesny for second position, but very well-deserved podiums for the two of them. Blazek is going to come home in fourth position. A very quiet race for him. We didn't see Schmidl very much. I think we saw Blazek even less. Stefanko, another possible candidate for driver of the day, going from 19th to 5th. An absolutely incredible job. In the end, actually, El Pichata in the Thrustmaster car coming home in 7th position. He was down in kind of 8th, 9th sort of region or so he's actually managed to make up positions. And the other Pichata brother in 7th as we're coming to the end of this race, and Korony is going to come home in 8th with Sikora just behind in 9th, and there's the other Pichata brother in the top 10, and that is going to do it from Paul Ricard here from the WTCC layout. But what an absolutely incredible race to start things off with in the Mercedes-Benz 190E. What an absolutely incredible first race for the Mercedes-Benz 190E. It is Michael Schmidl who picks up the win ahead of Wojtek Polesny and Andrzej Chlebets. Really well-deserved between those guys. I'm sure they're very happy about that. Michael Blazek finishing just outside the podium positions in 4th, a 21-second gap to the race leader, but 10 seconds ahead of Martin Stefanko, who fought back from way, way back to get into the top 5. Very well-deserved. Lucas Pichata in the Thrustmaster car in 6th position. Fantastic result for him as well, too. In the VGP 1 standings, Michael Schmidl continues to lead. He now has a 12-point gap down to Martin Stefanko, and then a 4-point gap between Stefanko and Polesny after Polesny's second-place finish today. And then it's a big gap of actually 20 points between Polesny and Blazek. Sikora is in the top 5, another 10 points adrift. In the VGP 2 standings, Kovacic picks up the win ahead of David Pichata. 21, nearly 22 seconds between them. Jaroslav Prohaska, though, in 3rd position, rounding out the podium for those guys. Very, very close between himself and Kujela across the line. Just 3.5 tenths of a second or so. Some penalties being applied there as well. In the standings, Simon Kovacic continues to lead the way with 68 points, a 17-point gap down to Peter Kujela. Jaroslav Prohaska is sitting in 3rd in the standings on 47 points, just 4 points behind Kujela, with an only 2-point gap between himself and Korony. So very, very close in the VGP2 standings. Looking at the team standings, Acer are leading the way with 101 points. Logitech in 2nd with 82, 19 points between those two teams. Just 3 points, though, down to Benzina, 2 points down to Predator, who are actually level on points with the Replay Studio. And that is going to do it for the first race with the Mercedes-Benz 190E. Can't wait for the next races. Thanks to the entire team and for Chris Buxton for joining me. I've been Justin Sutton, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.